Chris and I are leaving Vancouver for the next 4.5 months to travel through 6 different countries over all 4 seasons. And as we leave on this next adventure, we have to ask ourselves, is it bad to travel? It seems like there are more and more news articles and social media posts about how travel and over-tourism negatively impacts environment and livability. According to the David Suzuki Foundation, global tourism is responsible for 8% of the world's total emissions, which is higher than the construction industry. The carbon impact from a single flight is the same as driving your car for an entire year. And unlike so many industries that are reducing their impact, the airline industry's emissions are continuing to rise as more and more people are traveling more and more often. To help curb carbon emissions, France has banned short-haul flights between cities that can be traveled to in less than 2.5 hours by train or bus. And travel isn't just bad for the environment, it can be bad for locals too. The Hawaiian Tourism Authority indicated that the top issues in 2022 for tourism, as cited by locals on the island, are overcrowding, damage to the environment, higher cost of living, and traffic problems. In fact, 67% of residents strongly or somewhat agree that this island is being run for tourists at the expense of local people. In Venice, Italy, its canals are extremely polluted, its city streets are ridiculously crowded, and its cost of living has skyrocketed because of over-tourism. It's become so bad that the city's population of locals has been declining rapidly in the last decade. To help protect itself, the city of Venice is introducing a pass system. The system requires tourists wishing to enter the city to book their visit ahead of time. This ambitious system to control the number of tourists entering an entire city is the first test of its kind to see if it will improve the conditions of this very popular area. In developing countries, many of the areas tourists frequent are owned by larger organizations, and the money tourists spend does not go to support the local population. Furthermore, the hotels and resorts built up in these areas make the rest of the area too expensive and not very attractive for local businesses, office space, agriculture, and recreation, driving locals out of the place they once called home. We know that travel has a dark side, but as someone who loves to travel, I have to ask myself, does my love of travel make the world a little bit worse? But there must be some benefits to traveling, right? I know from personal experience that travel has opened my eyes to how other people live and see the world, and this has made me more understanding of other people's points of view. I feel like it's made me more compassionate and has allowed me to see how lucky I am to have grown up in a G7 country. Before I started to travel a lot, I'd look at postcards from those beautiful sunny destinations, and I'd wonder why anyone would want to emigrate away from such an amazing place. Now I see that these picture-perfect destinations might not be so perfect for those trying to create a life with choices, freedom, and opportunities for themselves and their families. I've seen studies that indicate that people who travel are healthier and less likely to suffer from heart attacks, that travel makes you happier and less likely to suffer from depression, that it enhances your creativity, boosts your confidence, and reduces your stress. Though, funny enough, many of these studies seem to be funded by the tourism industry. Despite the source of funding from these studies, from personal experience, I do think that there is a huge benefit to travel. The biggest ones to me are about learning about other people's ways of life, experiencing language and cultural challenges that change my frame of reference, and meeting people with different views and upbringings from my own. Do the benefits outweigh the negatives? Now, I can't say that the benefits outweigh the negatives, but I do think there are some definite benefits to travel. Here are some of the things I'm doing to reduce my impact. The first thing we try and do is avoid areas that have been over-visited with little tourism controls. We also try to work with local companies that provide benefits to the local economy. We'll be doing the Salcante and Inca Trail in a few months, and though it's not perfect, the Peruvian government has put a permitting system on the trail to reduce the damage caused by hikers. To hike the trail, we must go with a licensed guide. There are tons of Inca Trail tour operators, and we tried to choose one that benefits the locals. The company we selected was started by 2 local porters from Cusco, and they pay their porters and staff a fair wage and give them vacation time. And they are one of only 2 companies that hire female porters. The second thing we do to reduce our travel impact is to visit local restaurants and buy from local establishments. Instead of eating at places that cater to tourists that want a meal that's similar to what we can get at home, we try and find restaurants that are operated by locals, where we can experience the local cuisine and try something new. And by doing so, hopefully we're supporting the local economy and local businesses too. To further reduce our environmental impact, we try and visit places for extended periods. So with one flight, we can see many things. When we're at our destination, we opt to walk as much as possible, just like when we're at home. And we try and buy local foods, often from farmers markets, to reduce the distance the food is traveling while we're there. Travel seems to be getting a bad rap in the media these days, but I also think a lot of good can come from it. I don't know how to get around the carbon emissions of plane travel. Maybe purchasing carbon offsets can help. But I think we can take action to make it so tourism benefits the local economy instead of taking away from it. And in doing so, the learnings and new understandings we take away from our trips can make the world a more compassionate place.